There is a quiet crisis many people eventually face. Often in their 30s or 40s, sometimes earlier, a growing suspicion that they cannot actually tell whether the goals they have spent years pursuing are genuinely their own, or whether they are simply the goals everyone around them seem to want, absorbed so early and so thoroughly that they never felt like a choice at all. The career, the relationship timeline, the definition of success being chased, all look, on paper, exactly like what a good life is supposed to look like. And yet a persistent and unsettling question remains, whether any of it was actually chosen, or whether it was simply inherited and never examined. Carl Jung offered a specific and genuinely useful method for actually answering this question, rather than simply feeling paralyzed by it. Jung believed that a great deal of what people pursue across their lives is not genuinely chosen at all, but absorbed unconsciously from family expectation, cultural messaging, and constant comparison with people nearby, adopted so early and so completely that it feels from the inside exactly like personal desire, even when it originated entirely from somewhere else. He considered distinguishing a genuinely personal goal from an inherited or borrowed one to be one of the central tasks of what he called individuation, the lifelong process of becoming a genuinely distinct individual rather than simply a well-performing product of one's surrounding influences. Jung's practical method for making this distinction begins with a specific kind of honest testing, examining a given goal not by asking whether it sounds good or whether other people approve of it, but by imagining it fully achieved in complete detail, and then honestly checking what actually happens inside when that image is held steadily in mind. A genuinely personal goal, one that actually arises from a person's own deeper nature, tends to produce, even in imagination alone, a specific felt quality, a sense of rightness, of fit, of something settling into place, even if the path to it looks difficult. A borrowed or inherited goal, held in the same imagined, fully achieved state, tends to produce something different, a flatness, a vague unease, or a feeling of having simply checked a box without anything inside actually responding to it. This offers a genuinely useful practical test, distinct from simply asking whether a goal feels exciting to pursue, since inherited goals can produce plenty of surface excitement, driven by comparison and external validation, without ever producing this deeper sense of settled rightness once actually imagined as complete. The test is not about the pursuit. It is about the completed state, imagined honestly and held long enough to notice what actually rises up inside in response to it, separate from whatever excitement the chase itself might currently be generating. Jung also pointed to another genuinely useful source of information here, one many people overlook entirely: the pattern of what has produced genuine sustained absorption across an entire life, particularly in childhood and adolescence, before external comparison and expectation had fully taken hold. He believed that a person's own genuine nature tends to reveal itself earliest and most honestly in whatever activities produce real absorption for their own sake, not for any external reward, long before the adult mind learned to evaluate everything by comparison and status. Revisiting this early pattern honestly, asking what specifically produced that quality of genuine absorption, often reveals more about a person's actual nature than any amount of adult reasoning about what a sensible life goal should look like. This suggests a genuinely useful two-part practice for anyone trying to distinguish their own genuine desires from inherited or borrowed ones. First, for any major goal currently being pursued, imagining it fully achieved and honestly noticing whether this imagined completion produces a settled sense of rightness or a flat, checked box feeling. Second, looking back honestly at the earliest, least externally motivated moments of genuine absorption in a whole life, and asking what specific quality was present in those moments that might still be missing from the goals currently being pursued. There is real value in taking this work seriously rather than assuming the answer is obvious. Jung believed that most people go through significant portions of their lives without ever genuinely testing whether their pursued goals actually belong to them, discovering the mismatch only much later, often at considerable cost, once a goal has already been fully achieved and the promised satisfaction still fails to arrive. Testing this honestly and periodically, rather than only after a major goal has already consumed years of effort, offers a genuinely practical way to redirect that effort earlier towards something that actually corresponds to a person's own deeper nature rather than simply an inherited idea of what success is supposed to look like. Think honestly about a major goal you are currently pursuing and try the test directly. Imagine it fully and completely achieved, and notice honestly what actually rises up inside you in response, a settled sense of rightness or something closer to a flat and checked box. If you tried this test with a current goal, write below the single word for what you actually felt when you imagined it complete. Naming that feeling honestly, whichever it turns out to be, is often the first real evidence you will ever get about whether this particular goal genuinely belongs to you. Because distinguishing your own genuine desires from everyone else's borrowed expectations was never, according to Carl Jung's understanding, a matter of simply thinking harder about what you want. It required a specific and honest test, imagining the goal complete and actually listening to what rises up inside. A test most people never think to run, until years have already been spent finding out the answer the hard way.